mentioned in my opening statement, I want to congratulate you on all the work that you and your team have done on PFAS. I know how complicated this is, and it's a long time in coming. I want to ask you a little bit about EPA's risk assessment on PFAS and biosolids. As you know, I think Maine is ahead of the federal government on this issue, and our state is currently looking into alternative disposal options. Additionally, with the recent regulatory action on PFAS, some of the requirements can be difficult on the states. So I have a couple of questions about this. First, can you give us a quick update on your risk assessment of PFAS in biosolids?
Yes, we are working on finalizing that risk assessment this year that will include a specific focus on certain PFAS that help us understand better the specific risk that it poses to farmers and the uptake in crops and livestock. So, we're working on that for this year. I will say that I've personally been engaged on this issue with Secretary Vilsack, and I'm very proud that we are co-leading a work group on PFAS with both USDA and the FDA. So I can assure you that this is top of mind, and it's something that not just EPA but multiple agencies are taking a serious look at.
Thanks. Can you talk a little bit more about the impact to the states of your recent regulatory actions on PFAS? I'm just going to say for everyone on the committee, sometimes when you talk about biosolids and all this stuff, it just sounds like a lot of jargon. This is basically the issue of, for decades in our state and probably in yours too, biosolids, which is just sewage sludge, has been an acceptable, basically a fertilizer that gets spread on farms. It's a good way to dispose of it, and it's enhanced the fertility of the soil. But because PFAS are contained within it, now we have, unfortunately, multiple farmers who have found that their land is contaminated. They can no longer grow crops, and we don't really know what to do. Do we buy them out? Is there a remediation for it? It's a significant issue, and it's an issue the USDA is tackling, but it's something that everybody's going to have to deal with this in your own state. Okay. We, unfortunately, were just a little bit ahead of the curve and started testing, and now our state legislature has, had to spend tens of millions of dollars already just to support the issue of farmers going out of business or having land that they've worked on forever that is no longer usable. Mm-hmm. Not only is their land contaminated, but in some cases, these are family members, little kids. People themselves are contaminated by their own soil and water. So that's just a little, it sounds sort of, what are you talking about, PFAS, biosolids? This is like a serious small issue of small farms and farms of all sizes. So, yes. I'm sorry, go ahead. So I guess I'm telling you what this impact is on our states, but I don't know if you want to say more about the regulatory actions that you're taking.
Well, we're very sensitive to this issue. And number one, thank you for securing that $16 million in research grant funding so that we can better understand how it is impacting our food supply. I will say that FDA, USDA, EPA, we are doing the proper research, again, to properly understand what the risk is for this biosolid application. But to cut to the chase, two things. The first is we are intent on holding the polluters accountable. We do not want our farmers, we do not want our water systems, we do not want taxpayers and communities bearing the burden of some of these unfortunate situations. And so in terms of our regulations, we are tightening down our regulations to ensure in our drinking water that these forever chemicals are not making it into the bodies of our parents, our children, our grandparents, while also pursuing enforcement action for those who have put these into the environment. At EPA, we've worked really hard to look at our enforcement discretion opportunities there. And what we're doing is we are, again, looking at how we enforce the laws and ensuring that our farmers and our water utilities are not the unintended victims of any of EPA's actions to contain and regulate this pervasive and long-standing chemical.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate the work and the research that you're doing because, again, we don't know yet how to clean it up in the soil when it's already contaminating a farm. We don't know how to determine exactly what's an acceptable amount in a carrot or a head of lettuce or some hay that dairy cows might eat. And now, since we're no longer allowing sewage sludge to be spread on soil, on agricultural soil, which was the best way to dispose of it, we have a landfill issue. So now we're accumulating it in landfills, and our landfill operators are saying, what do you want us to do? Right. And we don't know how to deal with it or handle it. And again, like Maine, we're just a tiny little state, but we weren't the only ones that had to deal with PFAS. It's That's everywhere. Right. And so when it sounds like sort of an abstract notion, if it hasn't hit your state, you're going to learn about it. And if it hasn't hit your small farmers, you know, that's a hard conversation when you have to talk to a family that's been contaminated, or somebody who's been working the land their whole life and now finds out that the stuff they're selling to their customers is no longer acceptable, that it's toxic. So anyway, I appreciate it very much. Sorry for going on that one question, but it's a really tricky issue, and I know you guys are working on it, but thank you for that.